Thank you. My name is Chris Santiago. I run our pre-sales organization here at Unravel Data. I've been with the company a little over 6 years, and been working with lots of customers in the data space, more specifically on Databricks, and working with various team members. So folks from data engineering team, data ops, FinOps teams, all trying to tackle this common question that always gets asked: how do I maximize my ROI? And so for today's topic is all about maximizing ROI, advanced cost optimization techniques for Databricks. What we're going to walk you through is share a little bit of examples on how customers, more specifically teams like the data ops and FinOps teams, are trying to tackle costs today with some of the out-of-the-box tools in the Databricks estate. We'll then talk about some of the common gaps that these teams face when they are using things from Databricks that's out of the box. And I'd like to share, a way where we can be the easy button and walk you through a demo through Unravel on how we can bridge the gap and answer some of these questions that FinOps and data ops teams commonly run into when they're trying to tackle how do I maximize my ROI in my Databricks estate. So if you've been following some of our other talks, I am a big fan of telling customers that please use some of the out-of-the-box tooling that Databricks provides. It's a wealth of information that if you're not taking advantage of this, then I highly suggest that you do. And today, since we are talking about just tracking costs and ROI, I went back to our trusty Google image search just to give some common examples on how folks are using Databricks system tables to start to understand where the costs are going. And so some of the benefits that customers get from this is first being able to track spend at a granular level. And so you can see some of the information here on the screen. And this is a forecasting use case. So understanding, historical spend, where spend is to date. And in many cases, how do we actually use some sort of model to start forecasting growth from that perspective? You can do that with using system tables. Other benefits that you can get are more granular, we'll call it the slice and dice dimensions. So if I want to understand at a SKU level, or if I wanted to understand at a job level, or we can even maybe take some more information from the tags that exist in Databricks and start slicing and dicing. This is a great source of data for FinOps teams to really start tracking costs. This could be a Power BI dashboard, could be a Tableau. The visualizations don't really matter, but at the end of the day, system tables allows FinOps teams to really start getting a good fine-grained visibility into where cost is going. Now, when you talk about ROI, naturally, a lot of that comes into the optimization space. And what I typically see with customers is you have a finance organization that doesn't necessarily know all the technical details of a complex data system like Databricks, but they'll work with some technical folks, maybe some folks from the data engineering team, or maybe even some developers themselves, to really say, hey, system tables not only can give us some good information about costs, but maybe we need to go into the more granular details and start looking at, in this particular example, tables. So what is my table creation month over month? How is that growing? If I wanted to start slicing and dicing it by SKU or the type of table it is, or, how is my volume growing? My volume's usage growing over time. This is a great way for some more of the technical folks to still use those same system tables to start using this information and using some of the data that they're seeing here is, hey, I didn't realize that my data storage had spiked last month. Let's get into the details. And maybe it's something, there's maybe an ingestion pattern, or maybe if compute is rising exponentially, maybe we need to look at some more of the details from the jobs more specifically and start to tune things from that perspective. And so you see a lot of data ops and FinOps teams working hand in hand to really tackle to say, hey, I feel good that the spend that I'm making in a modern data stack like Databricks, I feel good that I'm getting my return on investments. Now, while this is great, there's a couple of things to think about, and uh, one of the things that that customers will ask about is, hey, this is great. System tables gives me a wealth of information about everything all about Databricks, but hey, Databricks has associated infrastructure costs. So if I'm still using servers, there's a VM cost to that. There's some storage, some disk. There's maybe some ingress, egress. There could also be discounts. So, if they're, a larger organization may have a special agreement with the cloud vendors, and they may have specific discounts as well. And so one question that I was asked not too long ago was, hey, I look at my Azure bill, and my VMs are about 80% of my spend overall. Databricks is a huge component of this, but it's also being shared with other use cases, maybe some microservices, maybe some web servers, things of that nature. And while they were doing this with system tables, they didn't have that correlated information about the infrastructure level. And so if that's a common kind of think about it as like an all-in cost, that's one thing to consider that system tables alone will not provide. There's also the identification on areas of inefficiencies. So what I mean by this is, we're looking at graphs, maybe we see a spike. Directionally, I can see that, okay, there's a huge spike in resources, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's doing something inefficient. Maybe a team launched a new data application, and naturally that's going to spike up the cost. And so in order for folks to really identify where inefficiencies are, they have to get into the weeds. So you need to have a technical team that can understand, use system tables, which is a wealth of information, but use it to be able to understand, hey, should we actually spend time optimizing this, or hey, this cost of this cluster looks like it's a lot, but it's actually a streaming cluster, and it's supposed to be running for 24 hours, right? So that's not necessarily an inefficiency, so to speak, but it does require somebody to spend some time to identify. On the other side, understanding the impact. So understanding, if I actually adjust this, is it actually going to make an impact on my cost? Last but not least, tracking ROI over time. So as data volumes continue to go up and down, as folks continue to add more workloads to the environment, how do I feel good that, as my spend could potentially be rising, I'm still making sure that I'm getting the ROI. So these are some things that maybe, if you're on this webinar, maybe very common challenges that you guys are looking for. And so what I'd like to do here next is actually go into the Unravel UI. All right. So what you're seeing here right now is Unravel connected to my demo environment here. I'm starting over here on the Cost Explorer because what I wanted to show here is, where is my cost going? And so in this view, we're looking at things. Maybe you have your FinOps team is looking at things in a business unit mindset. So, what are my top spend from a business unit's perspective? Or maybe it's a little bit more granular. So in those business units, you have some cost centers, and where's the spend going in from that perspective? You can start getting some clear visualizations on that. And so in this example, we could see asset management in my small environment is my top X spend here in the last 30 days. And very close followed by transaction management. If I wanted to get same view or same data, and I want to get a little bit different view, maybe I want to look at things from a top X perspective for the business units, or if I want to look at it from a cost center perspective. And so this could be a great way for organizations to really understand, actually, I didn't realize asset management was my top spender here. I thought they had very small use cases. What's going on there, right? You can start to use some of this information to, high level understand where the cost drivers are going. So the nice thing about this is it's built in into Unravel. So once you actually configure Unravel, very simple configuration steps, you start to get these very valuable insights, and you don't even have to create additional dashboards. They come in from this perspective. Now, the way to add cost centers and business units, we could do it programmatically. So if this is something that we can pull in from Active Directory or some other system of record, we recommend that. But in many cases, there could be some custom ways of understanding what is a cost center and what is a business unit. So we also have a UI-based interface here, or you can do it through code as well through the API. But this is a great way for us to start understanding where the cost drivers are in my Databricks estate. One other thing I wanted to point out here too is you're seeing these costs. They're small because it's my demo environment. We pay for Databricks too. But what you'll notice here is that this cost is actually the all-in cost. And so since we are connected to not just information from Databricks, but we're also, this particular environment is in Azure, but we support other clouds like AWS as well. But we're also taking into account that. So what is the underlying infrastructure costs, whether it's the VMs, if it is compute, server compute, or if it's disk or anything else from that perspective, that's also calculated here. We also connect to the Azure Billing API as well. And we can also bring in the actual discounts that we tend to see with some of our larger enterprise organizations that may have a custom pricing model based on how much usage that organization is going to. So when you're seeing these costs and you're actually doing maybe like a cent to cent comparison to what you're actually seeing from the bill, you're going to get that here. So the all-in cost is actually built in here, and that's also very helpful for folks that are trying to understand. Still use some of the Databricks tags, or in this case, the cost centers and business units, but looking at the all-in spend. So not just the DBU spend, but also the underlying infrastructure is something that's pretty powerful. So you get that right out of the box from an Unravel perspective. Now, the next question is, okay, great. Now that I understand where some of the cost drivers are going, tell me the ones that are maybe suboptimal. Maybe the way that the job is running, there's some inefficiencies, or maybe the way that things are coded, are there inefficiencies from that perspective? And what I've done here is I've gone and clicked on this homepage and just went to this optimize tab here. Because this is a good representative of looking at your entire estate, all of your workspaces that Unravel is configured to monitor. And we're able to look at and say, hey, you actually have some node sizing inefficiencies, or maybe we could, some jobs are not using Photon, the newer engine from Databricks itself, and can we actually use that to, maybe speed up and even, reduce costs from that perspective? Auto termination, things to that nature. What Unravel is doing here is we're looking at every single job that gets submitted, and we're doing that analysis for you. So if we wanted to understand the number, so like how many jobs have these, we're doing that automatically. So that gives us a leg up to really try to understand, are we really doing efficient things at the organization level, or are we not? And so right out of the box, this starts populating as soon as you connect Unravel, and we can start to understand the amount of inefficiencies that we have. Now, what I'm going to do here next is click on one of these guys. I'm going to go ahead and click on this node right sizing. Conveniently, what this does is it brings me into this workflows tab, and now I'm seeing all the jobs here. There's a lot of information here, so I'll walk you through it. But each row is a job, so a scheduled job that's being run on, in this case, job clusters. You can see, we can see the runs if we want to. We can connect to it at the workspace level. You can see the number of runs, but I'll point your attention to this insight type. And since I did click on that node right sizing, that happens to be in our over provisioned group. And here we can actually see a filtered list of all the ones that have some sort of over provisioned instance. And so what I'm going to do here next is, before I click on here, the use case is this. I'm an app dev. I'm creating these jobs. I have no idea that, that my job is over provisioned. So if I'm coming in here and I see the job that I own has been flagged here, what I can do is actually click on this insight type to get a little bit more details. By doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this summary. What you're seeing here is a very down-to-earth English recommendation to be able to say, hey, did you realize that your job is being over-provisioned? So here's my table name, here's my workspace, some more specific details. I can drill into the details if I want to, but this is actually identifying, okay, there's an inefficiency here. So then the next question is, how do I remediate this? So if I'm not using Unravel, I would go into the logs, maybe test some runs, maybe change the VM types in this case, and try to figure out, okay, can I reduce the cost but still making my SLAs, right? So a lot of trial and error, a lot of time, a lot of wasted spend, even just going through that. But Unravel makes it easy for you. If you click on this remediation tab, what this is doing is it's actually doing that work for you. So we do have some intelligence built into our platform that will look and say, in this case, since it's an over-provisioned insight, here's a recommendation. So change from this family type to here. You can save 20% of costs on a driver, which is a node type in Databricks. Same thing on the worker side. Hey, instead of this, whatever you selected here, there's another instance type that we can recommend. And if you change it here, you can actually start to see 46% projected savings. Now, the nice thing about this particular example is that we're giving recommendations to reduce in this case, the family types, which in many cases can be reducing resources. So for example, the driver comes from 16 cores to 8 cores. But more specifically, what we're doing here is providing recommendations to right size in this case, but at the same time, go through the analysis, go through the forecastings, go through all the scenarios to understand I can't impact the SLA or even worse, fail the job itself. So you can be rest assured that these recommendations should, show cost savings by reducing the resources, and it shouldn't affect the SLAs itself. And so when it comes to just understanding, hey, if I make this change, can I save 46%? You don't even have to do the trial and error. We're doing this for you for all of the jobs that you have in your environment. So pretty powerful stuff. And if I kind of go back here, what I wanted to also show here too is some of these other costs or these other columns. So you have total cost. So that's what you're spending for this job. You have this untapped savings. Now, what this untapped savings is actually telling us here is that this is that projection. If you make that change, we're projecting to save, X and Y, and you can get this. So when you're trying to track, am I actually leaving money on the table? This literally is telling you, you are leaving money on the table. Look at what Unravel is actually recommending here. Apply those changes. And so that way we can start realizing some of those savings here as well. And so we also have a way to track if the recommendations were actually applied as well. And so when it comes to just understanding, hey, is there money that I'm leaving on the table and I'm trying to maximize my ROI, we're already doing this for you, for the organization, for all the jobs that we're seeing. So that really kind of ups the ante for a lot of FinOps teams that may have an inkling suspicion that resources aren't being used optimally. And here Unravel is actually quantifying what that potential impact would be. So pretty powerful stuff. And this is always a game changer for a lot of organizations that have some questions or doubt on their ROI. And Unravel is actually giving it in plain English. But then also you can also measure the impact of some of these inefficiencies, which is very powerful. Now, what I'm going to do here next is go back to the Cost Explorer tab here. And what I wanted to do here was actually go through this trends sub-tab here. And what you're seeing here is an aggregated view of what we were just kind of going through that model, right? So again, our playground environment, smaller. So I'm sure your data would be a little bit more larger. But I wanted to call your attention on two of the bars that you see here. You've got your total cost. So that's going to align, in this case, on a daily basis, based on what that spend is. Again, it's that all-in spend for each of these days. Okay, this yellow or gold is that untapped savings. This is that the opportunity cost, what's being left on the table, and to actually, from an inefficiency standpoint, we can actually see what percentage of inefficiencies are being unnecessarily spent, or at least what you can actually save if you were to actually apply these recommendations. And so that becomes a very powerful metric in cases where we have workloads that are continuing to grow. If you're an organization that's continuing to bring on more workloads, are we doing the right things? That's going to change. As workloads kind of go in. There's also maintaining the existing workloads. Hey, data volumes change. Sometimes things break. I mean, it's the real world. And inefficiencies can pop up over time. So Unravel is able to still continue to point that out over time. And so when we're trying to continually track ROI and make sure that we are maximizing our spend, this is a great view for us to actually track this over time. So one last thing I wanted to show here from a demo perspective is this cost rating here. So I went back to the homepage here and I went to the summary, and think about this as an even more aggregated metric over time, where we can really start to understand, hey, do we have a vast amount of inefficiencies? And so you would be in the red bucket if that was the case. Or we've been applying recommendations. Everything we do is very efficient. You can get to that optimized side of the house here. A little bit more details here, I think, in the webinar, maybe a little bit too much details, but think of this as looking at all the inefficiencies, and this could be a great KPI for us to actually track our ROI efficiency over time. And so this is also a very good, powerful gauge for us to really understand the estate of, are we actually maximizing our spend or not? So yes, to kind of recap what we were just covering here, we first started off by just talking about how data ops, FinOps teams, how they're working together, and how they are trying to track where the cost drivers are, try to optimize or identify where the inefficiencies are, optimize it, and continue to optimize it over time. We walked you through how that same use case, we can actually do this with some of the features from Unravel that are built in and really just unique to us, because we are purpose built for modern data stacks like Databricks to provide these insights and recommendations in a quantified fashion. So that way you as an organization can really feel that you are maximizing your ROI in your modern data stack, chosen stack of Databricks. So thank you for attending. What I'm going to do next here is I'm going to go and look at some of the questions here. So give me 1 second. One of the questions that came up, what are the advanced metrics I can track to prove ROI on my data platform? Good question. Let me actually answer this through a demo. So let me go bring my screen back here. Give me 1 second. All right. So one way that we can measure and track ROI is by looking, if we go back to this workflow tab here, I definitely recommend this, right? So here's our spend. Here's the money we're leaving on the table. Here's our devs actually applying the recommendations. And so this is a great way where we can actually track it from that perspective. We can do it from the Cost Explorer here and track kind of our ROI from there. Or if you want that very high level, just one KPI, we can use this as well. And so with this, our unique advantage from an Unravel perspective is that we are identifying where those inefficiencies are. We're quantifying it by saying, if you do this, this is what we're projecting to save costs. And then being able to actually track that and make it accountable that like, hey, are we doing this across the organization? Those are some of the KPIs that you can actually use to measure, improve your ROI. And the next question here is, can we discuss best practices for how to present and share my metrics? Great question. I'll go back here. The way that I'll answer this one is that, we work with a lot of organizations where, if this is a multi-team type of environment, right? Platform teams may have jurisdiction to make certain changes. App dev teams may have jurisdiction to change maybe the code from that perspective. And both parties don't want to be told what to do, right? What you can do is actually use Unravel to be able to be the bad guy, so to speak, but basically say, hey, there are some inefficiencies. It's not to say that you're a bad coder. It's, hey, this stuff is complex. And in order for you to track any kind of inefficiency, you have to really spend a lot of time that teams simply do not have. They'd rather be innovating than troubleshooting. And so when we talk about best practices, one of the things that we love to promote is this shift left mentality. So as devs are creating their code in maybe a non-product type of environment, they can actually use Unravel to identify if there are inefficiencies. But what we can also do too is actually embed this into a CI/CD process, and we could actually get creative. For example, like gating specific jobs as they're kind of going through the process to say, hey, there's a lot of inefficiencies here. You can't, move to prod until you actually address this. So, the operationalization of Unravel is always complicated ones, the larger organizations that we deal with. But we make it a lot simpler by just democratizing where some of the inefficiencies are, and literally, in some cases, going to the UI to find them, or we can actually bring it to the CI/CD workflow in cases if folks want to kind of just not have a lot of change in their process. So powerful stuff from there. There's another question here. In addition to right-sizing infrastructure, how can I control my Databricks costs? Great question. And one thing that I tend to see with organizations that are trying to tackle this without Unravel is that when they think of optimization, a lot of times it is like, choosing the right infrastructure, right? But they don't necessarily talk about the code. And code can be a lot where a lot of other optimization areas could be. And so what you're seeing here is things such as driver contention or slow SQL, inefficient join conditions. All of these can also factor into resources maybe taking too long, but hey, you're paying for those resources. And so we can also provide that level of detail of optimization. In many cases, this could be a huge area of optimization for organizations. And that's something that we also do with our purpose-built intelligence specific for Databricks. So I'm checking the time right here. Looks like I'm pretty much over. So again, thank you for attending this session here on maximizing ROI in your Databricks estate. What I'm going to leave you here is with my free Databricks health check option here. So go ahead and visit that link on the screen. So everything that we've talked about here in this demo, you can easily get that information really quick and easy, simple configuration, and really effective in terms of just understanding, hey, what is the inefficiencies? Where is my ROI? And this is all an automated process from our side. So if you're interested, feel free to click on that link and give us a try. Thank you so much for attending the webinar again. My name is Chris Santiago, and until next time, bye-bye.